So we look then at how you'd go about answering the poetry section if you're with the OCR board. The last one we did was AQA, and the EdXL one is very similar to the AQA one, so you can look on that. Obviously here we'll look at OCR. The most important thing actually she say is SMILE, or the breakdown of SMILE, which is structure, meaning, image, language and effect on the reader or on you, is probably the most important thing you need to look at this. So if you haven't watched that first, please go and watch that video. Okay, so on your lit paper you're going to have section A, which is all about prose, so obviously that'll be taken care of in another video. And obviously section B, what you're going to do, what we're going to look at now, is analysing a known poem. So that's a poem that comes from your new anthologies. So the mark scheme, first of all, asks you to do this, and that's obviously in mark scheme language, but an easy way for you looking at it is you have to be very detailed and wide-ranging in your ability to pick out evidence from the poems for analysis and use it to show multiple understandings of the poem. So basically you've got to pick out loads of things and say it can do a load of use it to do a lot of analysis with. And secondly, you have to explain how different parts of SMILE, so the structure, the image, the language that the writer uses, etc., can support and demonstrate the meaning that they're getting across. So the meanings obviously is the ideas or the themes, etc., that's being explored. So because it's section B, you have to remember that it's worth 2/5 of the mark, so spend your time appropriately when you're coming into that. Now if we click along quickly to the OCR website, we look at their descriptors. So here we are for an AA star: sophisticated critical response, precise evaluation, sensitive understanding, etc. And basically it has to be legible and very well communicated. So basically what you need to do is remember this: you pick out lots of information and develop it well to show the insight, analyze specific words and extend their meaning. So basically you'll say this means this, but it could also mean this. You use SMILE, so you can talk about language and structure, etc., all different avenues of it, you know, where full stops are used, how it's broken up, where the commas are, etc., what specific words mean, what technique is used, why that repetition is used, all that kind of stuff. Original interpretation, obviously you can actually show yourself flipping ideas, so that's basically the sophisticated idea there. You want to be able to try and give them something original as well, to try and get those top marks. And you're writing, you must use embedded quotations, high level vocabulary, and your sentence structure and spelling must be accurate. Now I think this is an easier one than some of the other boards, because obviously you'll have the poem and then you'll be able to analyze it. So basically all you want to do is basically SMILE the hell out of the poem, just break it all down, and we'll look at an example of how to do that in a second. So depending on the question, you could focus on, you're going to be using SMILE points the whole way through, and depending on the question is how you're actually going to go about structuring it. So if we go across to here we have one of the Simon Armitage poems. It's actually in the anthology, and basically as you read through it, the question was, or is, should I say, the question for this: how does Armitage make the poem particularly moving? Okay, so basically the idea here is that this is moving, so one of the meaning or the effect on you is that it's moving, and obviously it's moving because it's probably about death. Well, it's about death, and then we're told to look closely at the language. So basically obviously we're looking at how language supports the meaning of death and sadness, etc., why obviously it moves us. We've got the mark scheme for this here as well, but with this one obviously we've been asked about the meaning. So if we come back here, if we're being asked, depending on what it asks, so we're asked what is shown, or we're asking to reflect on what is shown, basically the meaning has sadness in the poem, and then show how it's shown, obviously through language. So first of all we're going to discuss the meanings and then talk about how the structure, image and language support it. But here we've been specifically asked to focus on language. Again, just to highlight that, the language, so we want to make sure that obviously a lot of what we say is about language, and then we mention the other things as well, and then that's how we'll go through this one. So we'll look at this one quickly. I presume that you've read the poem. I've only read it myself first time a few minutes ago, but straight off we're looking at the language. Obviously this poem's about death, so this about his person, it's very kind of distant. We can see from the structure that it's quite fragmented. It's just like a list of notes. We've got a lot of things just starting with A, so this could be like a detective or someone who's found the body, or someone who's actually just reported the body, or gets to watch it from a distance. You've got quite ending words like expiry here, and you've got the watch has stopped, etc., etc., and you've got the full stop as well after stopped, which actually gives it a very final ending. You've got the words down here. That was everything. Again, that's a kind of summing something up, and you get the feeling coming through that he maybe had a breakup, or maybe he killed himself, because you've got he's taken off a ring of some description here, and then there's this giveaway photograph. So maybe that was a photograph with a loved one before they actually broke down. And again, you've got the word final, which again kind of ties into the word final, ties into the word that this was obviously an ending, etc, etc, etc. And then obviously you can look again through the other. So if that's looking at a load of language, and if you wanted to look at structure, you can talk about from the beginning about his person. But obviously we'll go into a smart breakdown of this poem later on, but it was just picking out some stuff there just to give you some ideas of how you'd go about answering that question. So the examiner, when he actually comes to mark it, he's going to have this notes on the task, etc, to be in front of them, so they're actually going to talk about it. So candidates are invited to give a personal response to the poem. There is deliberate searching that someone's ended their life. This may be a failed romance or breakup or marriage. Comment may be made on the ambiguity of the title. Basic responses here will offer a paraphrase, etc, etc, etc. So basically this is just notes the examiner for him to think about, and then here you've actually got this breakdown of what kind of thing they're looking for. So it may well be worth going to look at all the different previous exam papers to see what's actually come up there. Obviously that's how you'd go about answering it, but if you remember specifically to just make sure you're focusing on SMILE when you're breaking it down, that's obviously going to convey quite a lot of information. Good luck.